most coffees are grown in low altitudes, and they're in bitter soils, and then the type of the beans they have don't have the flavor. It's just like if you've gone out and you bought an oranges sometimes. You can buy an orange, and it can be pretty bitter tasting. And some are real sweet, and some are quite bland. And it's the same thing with coffee. It has to do with three things, and the World Coffee Association says this, and they're correct. What makes the better coffee is, number one, the type of bean, and that makes sense, doesn't it, to start with. The second thing is what type of soil is it grown in, and the third is the altitude that it's grown at. And here's the reasons why the Panamanian coffee is the best. It's the number one bean with the bouquet, so it has naturally the sweetest, most rich flavor. It has 4 chromosomes in it versus the Robusta coffee that's used by most other network marketing companies only has 2 chromosomes. So the potential to produce more flavonoids, more flavor in it is much greater, plus the bean itself has more of these qualities to do it. And so it's the number one rated bean. The second thing is when you get it from Panama, there's a unique thing within the Panamanian countryside, and that is volcanic ash that's been deposited down for tens of millions of years. And the volcano in that area is different than in other areas, in that it puts out a really sweet ash, which is decomposed now down into a sweet soil. So now we're taking the number one bean, we're growing it in the sweetest soil in the world, and this bean grows at the highest altitude. Now, what altitude has to do with coffee is the higher in the altitude you go, the less pollution, the less things to block it, the sun from the sun. So the more that the sun radiates on a coffee bean, the more flavonoids it puts out to protect itself from the assault from the sun. So therefore, the flavor is richer. And so if you have a great tasting bean and sweet soil to grow it in at a high altitude, you're going to have the finest tasting bean or coffee in the world. And of course, the humidity at high altitude is beautiful in Panama because the breezes come up over the Pacific Ocean and they rise up bringing all of that moisture. And when it gets up to that high altitude, it condenses and you have that cool rain coming down on it with all of that sunshine. And that coffee just grows and it develops into the sweetest, best tasting coffee bean in the world. No wonder it's been rated number one for the last 12 years. And so we've gone in and we've bought up the entire crop that was left this year because we knew it wouldn't be enough. And we're already going into Panama because there's a blight on coffee. In some places like El Salvador and other countries like that have lost 70% of their coffee due to this fungus that's growing on them. It really hasn't hit Panama hard yet, so we're going in and we're contracting. We're going to buy huge amounts of this. We're going to try and buy a year's supply of the coffee beans so that we can process it to ensure, because what we see is going to happen is enormous growth. This is really the big one. This is the giant of all time in MLM, and we're going to be king of the coffee bean pile, I can tell you that. We're going to be standing on top of it because we're going to do it like no other company has ever done it. So number one, taste is king, and so we're going to have the finest tasting coffee, and we've been doing coffee tastings all around the world now. I come back from Asia doing it. I've been over in Europe doing it. We've been doing it here in the United States, and virtually everyone that simply tastes the raw coffee that we have been producing with nothing else, just the black coffee, says it's the richest, best tasting coffee they have ever had in their entire life. So there we are. We're number one. Now what are we going to add to it? These other companies are adding some health benefits from Ganoderma, and what we did is take a look at it, and we found out from a consultant that had done some analysis on these, says there's insignificant, undetectable amounts of Ganoderma in the coffee that they analyzed from one of the leading MLM companies. We haven't analyzed it ourselves, but we're going to take a look at it. But Ganoderma is really a good property, and it's called the king of mushrooms, and certainly it is a good one. It has some very good health benefits to it and does a lot of things. And so Ganoderma is the type of ingredient that you would probably want in it, but you've got to use enough of it to work. And it's very important for detoxification, for the immune system, and antioxidant benefits, and things like colds and flu and sugar regulation in the body. Those are the main properties that it has, and so it's a great one. But there are 3 other ingredients that we've added in the health benefits too, and I'll talk about them. One of them is Gotu Kola. Now, Gotu Kola is really, it comes from India, and it's a really great one. And they used it traditionally in medicines. Now, we can't make these kind of claims for our products, so I'm just telling you what the ingredients can do. But Gold-Cola is a ingredient where we take the extracts and we concentrate them in all of these, from Ganoderma, from the spores, to Gold-Cola extracts, Bacopa extracts, and Chaga extracts. Those are the ones we're using. So as you read about Gold-Cola, it's used for nervous disorders, epilepsy, senility, premature aging, as a brain tonic. It's said to aid intelligence and memory. It strengthens the adrenals and cleanses the blood to treat skin impurities. It combats stress, depression, increases libido, improves reflexes, and it's been used for all types of things like venous insufficiency, minor burns, scars, scleroderma, skin ulcers, varicose veins, wound healing, rheumatism, blood diseases, congestive heart failure, urinary tract infections, hepatitis, high blood pressure. All of those is what it's traditionally been used for. So don't you think that would be a great one to add to our health product? I think the benefits of it are even greater than what it is with Ganoderma. So we have Ganoderma and we have that. And then there's Bacopa, and we use the Bacopa already in our TSX. So here we're going to have it in the coffee, in the extracts. And, of course, that one comes from India, too. And it's used for things like memory and cognitive ability and optimal brain function. And it's especially good for improving attention and focus. And when you have a reasonable amount of the chlorogenic acids that coffee has to go along with that, and the type of natural caffeine, you have a tremendous product to be used with that. Plus, it has great antioxidant activity, and it really helps in the brain, too, because the brain uses so much oxygen for preventing oxidative degeneration.